welcome to episode 38 of Nolzur's Marvelous Tutorials with RealmSmith. I am Jason Azevedo, your host for this evening. Welcome everyone in the chat. Everyone's already saying hi, and so glad that you guys have joined us in this craziness that we call Earth. There is a lot to go through, a lot to talk about, and some unfortunate things, and then some positive things that come out of that. Man, those seagulls are loud. Seagulls are annoying, so I'm just going to turn the seagulls down just a little bit here. What do you think? We're in the doldrums right now, just hanging out on the ocean, on the Lucidian Sea. Anyways, good to see you guys. I was at Gamma last week, Gamma Trade Show. I have some exciting things to show you from Gamma. But first, I want to thank our sponsors, our title sponsor, Vallejo, who is a paid sponsor and is a wonderful partner and group of folks. Hung out with them all last week. That was with Alex and Josep, and it was just a lot of fun. Meeting everyone and chatting and playing some games and seeing all the cool stuff coming out very soon. I was there helping them to launch and announce the new WizKids Vallejo paint line that is releasing, and I might have some inside stuff for you folks tonight. So I'm very excited to show all of you that stuff. The unfortunate news that we have today is that GaryCon has been canceled along with most of the Earth. Due to the coronavirus. I am also alone tonight because I was traveling outside of Canada and coming back into Canada. It has been suggested that I self-isolate for a little while. So Julian is not here to produce tonight. It is just me and Bruno the Tavern Dog who will be joining you this evening for this crazy painting thing that we have going on. We also want to thank D&D, of course, for hosting us natively on the D&D Twitch. We are also live on the RealmSmith Twitch as well. If you follow us tonight, this should go off purple and blue, or I might need to go restart it, but I don't know. But you have to follow us on the RealmSmith Twitch or subscribe to us on the RealmSmith Twitch to make the little potion go off. And we also want to thank WizKids, of course, for this incredible ship that they have created and a lot of the things that we're going to show tonight. But as mentioned, GaryCon is canceled. There it is. Thank you for the subscription. GaryCon is canceled, and I am sad to say that we will not be there, of course. We are still working on doing some of the things that we were going to do at GaryCon remotely. The finale will still occur. We will still do the Young Red Dragon live on the show in 2 weeks. But as of right now, that is the case. Also, tomorrow of Into the Mist, because I have to self-isolate, we cannot do Into the Mist tomorrow night. Instead, we are going to make that up. So what we're basically going to do is next week we will have a live episode of Into the Mist, which will be episode 11, and then we will do episode 12 the following Saturday, I think, which will be the actual day that GaryCon was supposed to, and then the finale will be the following Monday, I think. Not too sure that might be the case, but we are trying to work it out. But I will still be here for the 3 hours tomorrow for Into the Mist, folks. We are not canceling the stream. We are just not doing a regular episode. So tomorrow night will be an extended version or extended episode of Behind the Screen. We will be calling people in to chat about their characters. So we'll have members of the cast remotely dialing in to tell us all about their characters and answer questions and stuff. So it'll be a extended Q&A session tomorrow night for Into the Mist. Again, I apologize for that, but it is what it is, and unfortunately, there is nothing we can do about it, folks, because the world is as it is, and we are just making sure that we are smart about how much we're with people and being smart about not spreading what is going on. So that is that. It's very sad for us. We had some awesome guests that were going to join us for some things, but we're still trying to get those guests involved remotely and virtually, so we will keep you in the loop as that starts to unfold. If you're interested in our adventure boxes because you're stuck at home and you have nothing else to do over the next little while, check out www.realmsmith.tv and you can use the promo code IWANTADVENTURE to get $20 off your first box. And you can enjoy D&D at home with your friends and family, and you can even do a 2-meter rule where you're at a table making sure that you're not too close in isolation. So you can do that check that out. Want to shout out Sirenscape. We are using Sirenscape tonight to set the mood for this awesome Falling Star ship. And we have a painted version, actually, of the Falling Star ship right here. And this is the painted version. I don't know if you guys can see that. I will actually maybe switch to that. This is the painted version, pre-painted version from WizKids. And we are going to do a painted version, an unpainted version tonight. And over probably next week as well. It's going to take us a little while to paint it. Because we are going to need ships for our upcoming Tides of Wildmount campaign. And that is the next campaign that we're doing for our live stream starting April 6th. And then that will go through for the next 3 to 4 months. And then we'll be back for Into the Mist after that for Season 2 of the Curse of Strahd campaign that we have. But as it stands right now, we need some ships. And so we're going to take 2 episodes to paint this one up. And it'll be a lot of fun. I am in the chat right now on both Twitch channels, our RealmSmith Twitch, as well as the D&D Twitch. So if you have a question, write question in big letters, and I will answer them as they appear. If I don't answer the question after a while, then just ask it again, because I probably missed it because I'm painting, and all of that fun stuff. Let me show you some fun stuff that we released at Gamma, or we announced at Gamma, with Vallejo and WizKids. And I do have a lot of brown paint. And folks, I'm doing this the hard way with a brush. Typically, I would get like some Vallejo base paint. I didn't get any in time, so I wasn't able to even base coat this thing. So I'm going at it hardcore, just brush, like some of you would at home, and it'll be so much fun, I promise. And we will get all of it done in as much short time as possible, and it'll be great. Thank you for the Prime subscription, by the way, Lego. We really appreciate it. And if you guys enjoy what you're watching tonight, please consider making us your Twitch Prime subscription for the month, and then moving forward as well. And make sure that you subscribe to the D&D channel and give them lots of love over there as well if you aren't already subscribed. Thank you. CMD of Davidson, Commander Davidson says, "You the man." Thank you so much. And Shakespeare says, "Oh, snap. I know, brush, right?" It's crazy. But folks, you're going to be amazed at how quickly we can paint this ship just with brushes. It's going to be insane. Let me show you real quick what I wanted to show you. I was at Gamma Trade Show to show the release of the WizKids paint line, folks. A lot of you are seeing this for the first time. These are only currently prototypes, but it is craziness indeed. So this here is the immediate case. There are 2 cases like this, 2 40 paint cases that are curated directly from the Game Color line. This is the intermediate case. Like I said, it's got 40 paints in it. And then we also have, and in here, because I haven't even unpacked them yet, are all of the technique sets. I'll show you a couple of those in a second. But inside the case, 40 paints. They're a smaller size. There are base, auxiliary, washes. It comes with a brush as well. And it will also come with a little bit of an instruction manual. This is the intermediate. And then we also have the starter case as well. There are 40 paints in each of those. And then as part of the release, we will be releasing these technique sets. There will be 10 technique sets. I'm trying to build the box again because I actually folded it down for travel. But basically, we will have 10 of these of a number of different kinds. This is how to paint Defenders of the Wild, which is basically Rangers and Druids. And these will have check this out, folks, tutorials by RealmSmith in each of the boxes in your local game store. It's really freaking nuts. And we are really super excited about this whole thing. And there are a ton of these. I'll show you one more quickly as I build it, because again, we had it not built for travel because I needed to fit it all in my suitcases. But anyways, this is the wood and steel set. So just an example of some of the sets that will be coming out. It's very exciting. I designed all the boxes myself, curated the paint set kits, and I'm doing all the tutorials as well. Huge opportunity, really, really amazing. Wanted to show you guys that. Also, a little bit of something else. Vallejo is releasing new grass tufts. which are unreal, folks. So, you know, you have your usual greens and stuff. They have extra large, large, medium, small. You can look out for these in your local game store. But look at this. They have red. Look at this blue, folks. How awesome is that? There's like a turquoise color, and there's pink and blue with blue thing for kind of those alien worlds, or even the Underdark is cool. Anyways, lots of awesome craft stuffs. Wanted to show you guys those, and we'll be using those in our builds and in our paint jobs in the near future. So anyways, we're really super pumped. It's going to be amazing. And those WizKids kits, make sure you get to your local game stores when they come out, because they are going to go fast. Very, very, very fast. All right. Are y'all... Thank you so much, Kai. I see you in there. Question, when are all the new items available? June, July, the paint kits will be released. And end of April is the grass tufts. So you guys can look for those really soon. Next number of months, those will be released. And I'm so freaking honored and blessed to be partnered with WizKids and Vallejo. And it's a dream come true, guys. It really is. Try not to get emotional, because it's been a rough week. It's been a long week. Lots of time in airports and security and all that stuff. So thank you so much, WizKids and Vallejo, for continuing to do such an incredible job for us in the community. Question, has a recommended retail price been determined? Yes, it has. More or less, no, it hasn't, actually. I can't really talk about that, but they are incredibly priced, folks. Like very, very competitively priced. They will be absolutely attainable and affordable for you folks at home. And they will be right alongside your unpainted minis in your local game store. All right, so let's move right along, folks. As we know, we have lots to do here, so let's jump right in, and then you guys can continue to ask lots and tons of questions about that stuff. Tools, of course, the Falling Star Sailing Ship Miniature by WizKids. Obviously, that is incredibly important. We also have a set of Vallejo brushes, a dry brush, some water, some paper towel, and a paint palette, of course. And then when it comes to paints, this is just kind of the first round of paints that we need for the first half. We have heavy sienna, leather brown, black wash, heavy brown, bone white, and sepia wash. And then, of course, glorious gold, polished gold, gunmetal, chainmail, silver, and khaki. You will see how we use those as we move on. Like I said, folks, I could have done this the easy way. I could have sprayed it down. I could have either sprayed it in black and then just dry brushed brown over it. That's a really quick way to do it. I could have just sprayed it with a brown base primer by Vallejo. Didn't want to do that either. I wanted to take the hard way out, folks, not the easy way out, just to show you how easy it is to make all of this happen. So I've decided to, like I said, take the hard route and use a brush. I am using a larger brush, of course, but this shouldn't take more than 2 episodes. And we are going to basically base coat in the first time. These are some of the masts with the eagles, with the crow's nests in them. I almost said eagle's nest. And then, of course, some of the staircases with the doors and all this fun stuff. And we'll be building it as we go. It is so great to be back home with you folks doing this. I'm going to paint it a little differently, too, than the pre-painted Falling Star. And we're going to do a lot of cool effects with, like, algae and, like, wet effects and things on the hull after. Whew. All right. So, with all of that aside, let's get going. We are going to start with heavy sienna. That is a extra opaque paint, as we usually use for base coats. We are going to need a lot of this, so I'm just going to pour it into my palette there. I'm going to grab a larger brush like this, and we are just going to go to town. Folks, basically what we're doing here is I am doing all of the main body area. If I get it onto some of the other areas, that's fine. Not a big deal. But basically going to go through and base coat all of it. I am going to leave this kind of the banister and this top kind of border a different color. I'm going to make that kind of a heavy brown color. So I am going to not paint up into that area. If I get it over a little bit, that's fine. But even these portholes, for example, those are going to be gunmetal. I'm not going to do them gold like the Falling Star, just so it's a little different. But this will be the ship that our intrepid adventurers find themselves on in our Tides of Wildmount campaign. Speaking of Tides of Wildmount campaign book comes out tomorrow, which we are super excited about. And I actually happen to have a call with Mr. Matt Mercer himself tomorrow to discuss the campaign. I can't even believe I just said that. I can't even believe the words came out of my mouth. He has been a mentor of mine, even though he hasn't known it for many years. And I'm doing what I do because of him. And anyways, very excited about the future of RealmSmith and our streaming and all of that fun stuff. So, all right. See, look at that. Look how much I did already, folks. Doesn't take that long. Don't be afraid. This extra opaque paint, look how great it goes on here. So good. Question, how many ships will you need for your upcoming campaign? I'll need all the ships of different sizes. Currently, I have the pre-painted Falling Star. I have this, which is the unpainted Falling Star, which I'm painting now. And then I also have a Papercraft ship, which is really cool, actually, still, even for Papercraft. So I may even put that on the table. So I have 3 large ships, and then I have a bunch of smaller kind of Papercraft ships. I have a smaller WizKids ship. So I've got all the ships. Look at that, a quarter of the hull done, just like that. Now the question is do I want to do this back area the dark color that I'm doing now, or do I want to keep it that lighter color? I think I'm going to do the lighter color on that, I think. Let's see. We will see. But again, just trying to do a big, nice, solid base coat on this. Want to make sure it's nice and solid. If those seagulls get annoying, folks, let me know. As seagulls tend to be. I'll just fireball them. Take this, seagulls. No more seagulls. What are you going to do? Like a true pirate. For some reason, I am not seeing the D&D chat here update. So I'm just going to refresh you folks. See if I can get the chat back. Because I am not seeing it. I'm going to say hello, everyone, in the D&D chat. And see if that comes back. Maybe you folks can just do a little quick kind of test hello in the D&D chat just to make sure that I can see that it is working. Okay, so yes, like I said, I'm going to leave this. So this area here is going to be heavy sienna, and I think the other areas above, I want to leave kind of a lighter brown color. I'm going to use heavy brown for that after, just to give a little bit of differentiation. I just made up that word. It's a way longer word than it should have been for the rest. Okay, here we go. Now I am going to paint all of these with heavy brown, all of these little portholes. It's going to be hard for you folks to see. This is such a huge ship. And maybe a little difficult for y'all to notice. So I'm going to paint the tops of these, and then I'll open them up and then paint the insides as well. It's actually drying quite quick down here too, so I'm not too worried about getting it everywhere. This is almost all dry in here. And I've gone through about half of the paint I put in my palette, so I'm not even going to go through all that much, actually, or as much as I thought I might for this. So I'm happy about that. But the next few weeks, folks, at least, or the next month or so, you know, I know it's a tough time, but get your painting done. That's, for me, it gives me a little time. This self-isolation is a time for me to just kind of focus on painting, catching up on some things. Got lots to paint for this new campaign coming up. And I hope you all are staying safe and minding your time and biding your time well and taking care of yourselves, taking care of your family, looking out for each other during this time. Because not only physically is it a trying time, but mentally it can be too. So just make sure that you love on each other, check on people, be there for each other. It's incredibly important going through stuff like this, folks. So just make sure that you're doing it, taking care of the family you've chosen and the family you haven't. Question, can you gauge how much of the campaign will be on the water and how much will be on the land? Patron, with my players, I have no idea. I mean, it'll be a good amount. We're doing, we're starting, as I've mentioned before, we're starting in the Menagerie Coast. So it'll definitely start kind of, but they'll spend some time in port towns and all this kind of stuff. So it's really hard to say. It really depends on where they go and how they decide to kind of proceed through the world. So that's a tough one to answer. But yeah, that is the plan anyways. Let's see. Question, will one of the players be a captain of a ship? Maybe eventually, Trobe 19. There is a good chance that one of them is probably going to become... Okay, good. I'm glad to see that the chat in the D&D is working. Yeah. Will one of them be a captain? I'm sure eventually, maybe. I don't know. Again, depends. Like, who knows? Maybe they'll start in the Menagerie Coast, and then they'll decide, you know what? I'm not interested in seafaring life anymore. And then they'll, oh, I'm just dropping stuff everywhere, folks. This ship is so big. Yeah, maybe they'll just maybe they'll decide that the seafaring life isn't for them as an adventuring party, and then they'll end up somewhere else. Who knows? There are no rules, folks. Well, there are rules in the player's handbook and the DM's guide. But what I mean is, when it comes to their decisions, they may just have something else completely in mind than I do for you know, the world and how things develop. So, I mean, chances are pretty good that all of the things you imagine would happen in a seafaring adventure will probably have an opportunity to happen or happen at some point, but I have no preconceived ideas of how they're going to adapt or play or kind of make their way through the world. Question, how do you keep from railroading when using a ship under someone else's control? Good question. I mean, I've said this before. I said this in Behind the Screen last week. Last week. We'll also do Behind the Screen Tuesday as well, folks. Our usual scheduled Behind the Screen. I mean, when it comes to railroading, just remember, so it can be a little daunting sometimes, especially with something like Wildmount, where it's literally just a campaign book and you are creating the world. The same happened with Curse of Strahd for me, where it's a huge book with lots of things, and it's a very sandboxy type adventure, so they could literally go anywhere in the world, and the world's so small. Barovia is a tiny place compared to most worlds, and so there's so much right at their fingertips that they can travel to, and it can be daunting and scary and all of that kind of stuff as a DM, because who has time to prepare all of Barovia before you play? Not many. So I'll just keep throwing stuff, folks. Anyways, we're gonna move it on this way. We're getting there. Look at this. Look, this is like a handle. I could punch somebody with this ship. It's like a ship shaped brass knucks. That could be dangerous. What happened? He punched me with the ship. What was the last question? That was a good one. Railroading. So really, when it comes down to it, folks, your players can only follow the leads you give them. Never forget that, right? So if you present them with some ideas of where they need to go and you prep those, they'll usually choose one of those to prep. Otherwise, there is random encounters and all other kinds of opportunities for you to be sure that you can kind of prepare enough content for them to kind of stay interested. But the idea isn't always, and this is players cover your ears, as DMs, the idea isn't always to actually not railroad them. The idea is to help them feel like they're not being railroaded, if that makes sense. So as long as they have options as to where they can go, given to you by the DM, or given to the players by the DM, then they're usually happy and they don't feel railroaded. It doesn't feel like they are following a predetermined path that you've set out for them. At that point, it becomes kind of like an open world where they can kind of do what they want. So that's kind of my take on not railroading players, is give them the feeling that there are lots of options in a world that you can create, but can't humanly possibly write or prepare for every single scenario in every single part of the world. If that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. Lots of questions. With GaryCon being canceled, how does the change into the Mist last episode? So we haven't quite decided yet, guys. It just obviously got announced this weekend. So either we still do the finale on the Saturday, or that is a second last episode, and then we'll do a finale on our regular Monday, or we'll add an extra episode on the Monday. We'll decide from there, but we will still have an episode on the Saturday, which is the 28th of March, and we will also have an episode on the Monday night, which is, so you guys are actually getting more, well, no, you're not getting more into the Mist, because basically that extra episode makes up for this Monday's Mist episode, so. But I know you guys all understand, and I know you guys will support us no matter what, and so we're very excited about the next few weeks as we wind down our Into the Mist Curse of Strahd campaign and ramp up for Wildmount. Do you have any special deals for first-time users of the box adventure? I want to try it out. Also, is it possible to sign it to, so I have a signed DM screen? Oh, cool. Great, Julius. I appreciate the question. Yes. So if you use the promo code IWantAdventure at www.realmsmith.tv, you will get $20 off your first box. It allows you to kind of try it for a little cheaper, cancel it anytime if it's not for you. But that is our way to allow you to kind of try it out for fun and see if it's for you, and then make a decision later as to whether or not it is something you want to continue to do. So when it comes to signed, we actually, we have a fulfillment partner that ships stuff, and the DM screen actually isn't live yet. Just so everybody knows, the DM screen was part of our Kickstarter, and unfortunately, because of the shipping issues with China right now, we haven't received that yet, which is also why we haven't fulfilled that part of our Kickstarter yet. So the DM screen actually isn't involved or included in your adventure boxes yet, if you get them. The outside of the box looks like the outside of the DM screen, but the inside is not yet, because we're still getting that printed and tooled in China, and we're just waiting for all of that to ship. So, there isn't, you don't get the DM screen yet, and it's really hard to get it signed because we are not anywhere near the fulfillment partner in a matter that we can make that happen. So apologize for that. But if you get your DM screen in the next while after we've shipped it, and you see us at a show, I'd be more than happy to sign it. That's like, I can't even believe people are asking me that. Just so surreal. They do have a promo code. Okay, yeah. Any chance the GaryCon painting class gets scheduled for online? I'd be happy to pay for the dragon to be shipped to me. I am going to ask WizKids if that's possible. The issue with that is paints, but if you have your own paints, maybe we can still make that happen. I'm going to talk to WizKids tomorrow about the possibility of still doing it virtually. It just becomes really difficult to get you guys the miniatures in time to have you paint it. So let me talk to the good folks at WizKids, see if we can work that out. If we can, that would be really great, and we can still do it online. We'll probably just air it in our regular Sunday night session, but those of you that have paid for the event could potentially still get the mini. That would be great if we can make that happen. No promises, but I will talk to WizKids and see if that's a possibility. But it's really short order folks. So no promises there. Did I miss any questions here? If I missed any of your questions, please let me know. How can I encourage players to role play with each other? They never talk to each other about their backstories, feelings, or goals. That's a really good question. That question came from Cage Jatal. Yes, this thing is huge. Bun 3000. It is massive and it is awesome. And anybody who has it will know how fun it is. How do I encourage players to talk about their backstories, feelings, and goals? So first thing, as a DM, it is kind of our responsibility to allow moments for role play. And it's really up to the players to open up and do those sorts of things, frankly, right? There's only so much as DMs that we can do to kind of encourage players to open up and share. I mean, we can provide the opportunities to do so, and that is the biggest thing for me that I would suggest to any DM who really wants players to kind of dig into their backstories. And that is, first of all, it can't be forced. It should feel natural. That's the first thing. And you'll notice in our Into the Mist campaign, 2 episodes ago, there was a really great opportunity for some of the players to really dig into their backstories because I gave them downtime. So downtime at a tavern or whatever is a perfect opportunity for players to kind of dig in and be able to tell people a little bit about their backstories and stuff. That's the first thing as a DM. The second thing as a DM is it's important to find ways. Now, even when I'm doing a published adventure like Curse of Strahd, I'll find opportunities to actually insert some of their, some hooks from their backstory in the game. So is it a flashback? Is it a character from their background that they meet up with? What are the ways in which you can kind of entice them to talk about it more, like reveals? In one of our older campaigns, one of our players' brother, for example, showed up, who happened to be a very strong kind of influence or element of his backstory. How do you, maybe a flashback of something that happens in game that reminds them of their backstory that affects them, and then therefore they have an opportunity to share it that way. So not only giving them downtime to talk about it, but also encouraging aspects of their backstories in the narrative, for me, is always a great way to get them to talk a little bit. Callie, for example, last episode, I think it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, using Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments, Roan painted a rose, a black rose. And when she saw the flower, it reminded her of some of her backstory that related to her father, for example. And then she had the opportunity to share that. So again, not only giving them the opportunity and the place to share their backstory, but also little things that would potentially, I'm totally off camera here, folks. Sorry, it's difficult to paint this thing on camera. But also the opportunity to kind of have a moment integrated into the narrative that you've created that will actually encourage them to share is great too. This door just came off and it just snaps back in. I maybe should have taken them off, actually, in order to do this. That may have been worth a little bit better, but now I just made a big mess. I'm just going to paint that back over. There. Okay. Almost done kind of the outer layer, folks, of this. The outer layer of this ship here. And then we'll have to go inside and paint the innards as well. Can you give some, Patron says, can you give some examples of creatures encountered on the water? That's a great idea. Of course, we painted one, and the ultimate one of the ultimate creatures is, of course, the Kraken. I released it on my players in Sentinels of the Storm, which is another campaign that we did, live stream that you can find. And we also painted one as part of 2 episodes of Nolzur, so you can check that out if you're interested in the Kraken. So the Kraken is one of them. A Leviathan is another one, which is really great. There are Marrow, which are awesome, Sahuagin, which are awesome, and then just beasts like sharks, a Plathiosaurus, I think. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce it, but it's the dinosaur, the water-dwelling dinosaur that exists, is a great water-based creature. Storm giants, any flying creatures can always kind of fly in and attack if they're near, if the ship happens to pass a inhabited island of some sort. Elementals are great for the water as well, so water elementals, things like that. Right, Plailosaur, Plailosaur. Why didn't you use the airbrush to just hit it with base coats since it's big? It's so big. Okay, Adam Miniature says. That is a great question, and I had mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I couldn't show you how to do that. I would have absolutely used my airbrush to kind of, with Vallejo air paints, hit it with a base coat first. But I did want to show you folks that it's possible to do it with a brush. And I know it takes a long time to do this, and we could have been well on our way at this point. But I honestly did want to show you folks that it doesn't take all that much to paint not all that much paint, and not all that much time to paint a mini of this size. Adam, last session said, really, at what point is it no longer called a mini? And I said, I think it's called a mini as long as minis fit in it. And it's a miniature version of the larger, whatever it's supposed to be. But it's a very good point because this thing is massive. A little bit more of the heavy sienna here. Okay, and don't forget, folks, like, other than creatures on the water, if you're doing a seafaring adventure, of all of you folks grabbing, Tides of Wildemount, or sorry, not Tides of Wildemount, but the Wildemount Guide and campaign setting, those of you that are grabbing it, don't forget that, creatures aren't the only random encounters you can have at sea. There are so many other interesting things like weather conditions and that sort of thing that could really, really awesomely affect the travel at sea and make it more interesting and dynamic, especially like the crew, sicknesses, diseases that you can get on the seas. An upset crew who is thinking about a revolt or a coup could be fun too. Okay, folks, I'm hitting the inside of the boat now. You want to make sure that you're hitting as much of it as possible, and you want to get the corners as well, because when the floorboards go in, you don't want to be able to see gray around the corners in the areas that the floorboards don't cover. So want to make sure that you get as much of this in that heavy brown as possible. Sorry, the heavy sienna. This is the lowest level, so I'm not painting any further down than that. I just want to make sure that I'm covering all of this so none of that gray primer shows through. I'm going to do this side like this, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side as well. The craziest part of all of this is going to be adding the wash, because that is a lot of wash. Again, it would be easier and more possibly cost-effective to spray paint this with a black base paint, like base primer, rattle can from Vallejo, and spray it black and then just dry brush the brown on so that you still have that black in the recesses. That would be a good way as well to do this. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I should do all of that, the brown color, because I'm going to use heavy brown for where that ends. So, you know what? I'm going to leave that like that. From where that starts and onward, I think. So I'm just going to do that side's done. I'm getting a workout on my arm here, just holding this thing up. For those of you that are new to painting, Crack Tooth Battle Axe says he's new to painting. What's a wash? So a wash is a thinned down paint, This is a wash here, and washes are used for adding shadow to your minis. Depth and shadow. So basically what you do is you take a wash and you brush it over a surface, and it seeps into the recesses of that surface, adding a shadow. We'll show you kind of how that goes a little later, but that is, in theory, what a wash is supposed to do. It's kind of a very watered down paint that allows you to add shadow quite easily. Yeah, I will be using a lot of wash on the ship for sure. That is not going to be a joke. Again, a more kind of cost-effective, potentially quicker way to do a miniature of this size is to spray paint it black with some black primer from Vallejo and then dry brush the brown over it so that you still have the black in the recesses. But again, I didn't want to do that necessarily. I wanted to show you folks how to do it kind of the standard way, and then you folks can take whatever kind of shortcuts you want. But I mean, we're almost an hour in. I started, 45 minutes. I'll be basically done the main base coat for this. So that's actually not too bad, considering how big this thing is. 45 minutes is basically, not even an episode of a Netflix show. And then, of course, I'm going to go through. I'll probably end up putting a wash on this, and then I'll go ahead and start to base coat all of the other pieces, like the masts and all of that stuff, while this is kind of drying. And then you want to make sure before you assemble it, after you paint it, you want to make sure that you go in and you spray it with a Vallejo spray varnish, matte varnish, so that you can kind of seal it all in and protect it so that when you put everything together, it doesn't just scratch all the paint off. And when you're playing with it at the table, that it remains kind of nice looking and it lasts. So you definitely want to do that. And then after that, after you spray it with a matte varnish, then you can add some kind of gloss and water effects to the hull. Just make it look super cool. So, which we will be doing probably next episode in a week from today. Okay. See how well, folks, these extra opaque paints go on? Literally one coat, and we're pretty much good to go. There's a couple areas here where I kind of went over a little too fast, but it's pretty amazing how well this covers. Pretty incredible. Okay, I'm just gonna close some of these doors here. Oh, this one I have to repaint on the outside. I forgot to do that. And then I am going to just turn this over like this. I already got that side there. Got the inside of that ship. That side, I mean. Just going to get the inner edge here. See if there's any more questions here. Custom build. No, Fellbones. This is a WizKids Falling Star sailing ship that you can get from WizKids. Is primer a good way to start on painting miniatures? Yes, it is good. Yes, primer is a good thing to start with. But that said, WizKids minis come pre-primed, including this ship. I literally took it out of the box, and I'm painting it. So there is no kind of barrier to entry. You don't have to worry about priming. The reason I say talk about using spray primers because they're colored. So you can do the base coat all in one kind of coat of spray using the Vallejo paints. I am using Vallejo Game Color paints, and each bottle is about $3 US. Or $3.29 US, I think, is the MSRP or suggested sale price, and you can get those at your local hobby shops all around the world. That is what I am using right now. The spray primers, the colored base spray primers, are $10 US around, which is really, really competitive and great for a rattle can spray primer. If any of you paint and know, and are aware of kind of the prices, it is a really good price. So, and they are very, very good. I heard nothing but positive, awesome comments regarding Vallejo's line of paints this weekend at Gamma. It's always great to talk to retailers who come to the booth while I'm there and just talk about how awesome the Vallejo paints are and how much they love using them. So it's always a pleasure to hear. Okay. So that is, I think, all of the heavy sienna on the base. I am going to turn it upside down here and just make sure I got all of the areas. Remember that the levels come off of this, folks. So you want to make sure that anything that is going to be seen, either through the windows or whatever, is painted. I'm actually getting all of the... I don't have to do that, actually, because it's the wrong color. I forgot. But anything that's going to be that heavy sienna color, you want to make sure that you get. Typically, I wouldn't do the bottom of this, but I just want to make sure that it's covered nicely. Okay. I am going to get the front of the ship here. Just make sure that I get kind of inside this here in the front and under all of this. Okay. There it is. Oh, I do also want to get, even though it's below where these are, I want to get all of these little portholes on the edges of them. And I'm going to paint kind of around them a little bit. Even though I'm not going to see that bottom kind of level, I want to make sure that anybody who opens these up doesn't see any of the gray there. So I'm just going to kind of go through and paint the inside rims of these. And thank you, Julius, for becoming a Realmer and ordering our adventure box. That's really wonderful. Welcome. Welcome to the crew. It's so great. Okay. Question. What has been your favorite mini to paint so far? I get asked that a lot. I think it's probably either the Beholder, because that was one of the first big tutorials that I did on our YouTube channel for WizKids and Vallejo, and it was wonderful. Such an incredible mini, as you know, hard to get. So it's a coveted mini, and so you guys can check that out at our YouTube page. So that was one of them. The other one was the Frost Giant, the WizKids unpainted Frost Giant. That is, again, an incredible miniature that we painted over the course of 3 different episodes in Nolzur's. I think episode 18 maybe. But you guys can check that out on the RealmSmith YouTube page, or I think it's also on the D&D YouTube page as well. You can check them out there. A lot of kind of corners here, folks, for these. A lot of stuff. And you can see I'm just beating this brush up. This is a brush that I don't care too much about. You can see it's kind of starting to fray, and that's okay because I'm just literally jamming it into the corners here to try and get all of the areas that I need to. Turning the miniature every which way to try and get the coverage that I'm looking to get here. I know it's hard to see on camera sometimes, folks. Apologize for that. Okay. There we go. I think that's all of it. Okay. So that is the entirety of the heavy sienna that I need to put on the mini. So once I'm going to let that dry now. Close these a little bit while it all dries. Let that dry just a touch, and I'm going to do the base coat. Now I am batch painting, which means that I am doing areas of similar color all together, so that I just save time on mass painting areas. Now this is all going to be. Do I want this all to be heavy sienna? I don't think I do. I think I want the staircase, the top of the staircase, to be the lighter brown color. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab some heavy sienna and do the wall in the back and the kind of the base of the stairs in this color here. Wow, this is a lot easier to hold. Not as heavy. Also doing kind of the base of the stairs in this heavy sienna. And then I'll do the top in the heavy brown. Again, I'm trying to get this like two-tone kind of approach effect. I think will be really cool when it's done. Question is, do I want to do the stairs in the... I'll do the stairs in the heavy brown. I think it'll make it really kind of give it some cool interest and some cool dimension if I can get all the colors correct. I am getting the door, but that's not a big deal. I could just do that afterwards again. Okay, back to questions here. Tristan says, would the first adventure box include paints as well as brushes? Yes, it does. The adventure box absolutely includes paints and a small pack of brushes in that first adventure box. Now, you have to choose the paint option. It's a bit more expensive to get the paints, but it's an incredible deal for Vallejo paints. It's cheaper than you would get most places, so it's worth it to get the paints along with it. And we send you 10 paints per box, which then, you know, there's no duplicate paint. There are very few duplicate paints, if any at all, per adventure. So by the end, you have a set of 60 paints because there's 6 parts per adventure. And then in the next adventure, it continues on, and we want you to build a full, basically, collection of Vallejo if you can that way. So it's a great way to get paint. And build a collection and paint things as you go. It's just cool all around, folks. Just cool all around. Yes, we also have a Discord server. You can check the chat in order to participate in that. Thank you, DC Lasser. You always do such an incredible job. I just want to shout out all of the moderators, especially those guys on the D&D Twitch channel. They're always so great and so responsive and helpful and informative. Just want a huge shout out to those guys for helping us out. They're really, really great folks, and we thank them so much for their support of our channel on a weekly basis. It's a thankless job sometimes, so I just want to shout out a big thank you. Everyone join me in a big huzzah and hurrah to our wonderful moderators on both channels. Thank you. Question, did you say you have galley miniatures? Yes, I do. Yes. What has been your favorite mini? I already answered that one. What's the best approach to convince your wife that this is a necessary purchase? Won't even get into my 12-year-old wanting an armada of them. Yeah. So, that's a toughie, which I'm sure everyone at the table or in the chat who has a significant other who you need to convince is. I think it's an incredible miniature. The unpainted one is cheaper than the pre-painted one, which is good, so you're saving money. It's creative, and it's a project that you can do with your kids and they can help you paint it. So it's like a family exercise. And if you're doing wild mount, if you're running a wild mount campaign, it will get use at your table every single week. So really, if you think about it, if you use it through a whole campaign, it's basically breaks down to a price of a coffee a day for your whole campaign. So, did that work for you? Kyburn? 14? Hilarious. That was a good one. Good question. Okay, I am almost done base coating this set, and then I have another one on the other side. I think my intention is basically in this episode to get through all of the base coating that I need to do. If I can do that, we're doing all right, folks. If I can get through base coating and most of the wash, then I think we're on the right track here. Worst I've seen. Are you meeting up tomorrow? Have you ever run into a mini that you wish wasn't already pre-primed? No. Okay, Adam. No, I haven't. I'm so thankful that WizKids pre-primes their minis. I think it's a wonderful thing. And no, I've never, the priming on the pre-painted ones are getting better and better too, so that it's not clogging a lot of detail. And one of the things that stops me from painting the most when I was doing wargaming is the idea of priming, because it's gotta be nice decent weather, and then you gotta do it outside, you got to get the rattle can out or use your airbrush, but then that means you have to wash your airbrush after. So no, I love the fact that these minis come pre-painted and I can literally paint them right out the box. That is a massive benefit and bonus for me when it comes to these guys. And it allows me to just do them on the show. Like, I can literally just pop them out of the box like I did this one right before the show starts and go at it and not even worry about it. So, no, it's great. I've never regretted it or wished they didn't come pre-primed. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for that. I'm just going to do the bottom half basically of that, and then the top half will be, I may come back once I put the other brown on. I might come back and go, maybe I want to do this or that, but for right now, that's what I want to do. Got another one of these. I still have 3/4 of this bottle left, if more than that. There's so much paint in these bottles. It's insane. I've been using these Vallejo paints for probably about 4 years now, and I'm literally just starting to I paint a lot, folks, as you know, and I'm just really starting to replace some of the bottles that I need. I think I've gone through maybe 2 bottles in 4 years of heavy sienna, and I use it all the time. It goes a really long way. Really, really long way. Question, how do we know what the intro Into the Mist Extra Life donation isn't a scam? Writing Machine 123 says. Well, the reason you know that the Into the Mist Extra Life thing isn't a scam is Extra Life is a known charity that has been operating for a really long time and is proven to do what it is said to do. When it comes to actually donating, we know it's not a scam for us. I don't know if you're thinking that maybe you want to know where the money goes. We don't even control it. We don't see that money. It doesn't touch our hands. It goes directly from you to Extra Life. And like I said, Extra Life, we know where the money goes. There's ways of tracking it, and there have been no issues to that. So, of course, there's some trust involved, but we are fully aware and trust that it is going to where it needs to be going. So, and I just want to thank everyone who has participated in the Extra Life donations thus far and continue to. It's been really, really incredible. And what they're talking about is basically an Into the Mist. For those of you that don't watch on Monday nights, you as viewers can donate to Extra Life via our Twitch or our Extra Life page. and the donations go towards buying the players actual items in game that they use, magical items. They've gotten a bunch of them already. They have some +1 bolts coming to them tomorrow, next time we play. And we've raised over $1,500. I think it's up to close to $1,600 so far for Extra Life. And Extra Life supports the Children's Miracle Network of hospitals, which for us, the local hospital that helps is the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, which is an incredible hospital, does incredible things. So we do it all for the kids, and we are so thankful to all of you for your continued support. It's so special and so important that we look out for those that cannot look out for themselves, like children in hospitals. So thank you. Are you meeting up tomorrow? I'm assuming Strange Things Gods. I'm assuming you mean Into the Mist. We are not. I have to unfortunately self-isolate after traveling to the States. So we are not meeting in the same room, but we are running a special edition of Into the Mist where we will do a Q&A and have our players kind of video conference in to answer your questions. It's going to be an extended kind of Q&A, inside look into Into the Mist, and we'll kind of spotlight some of our players and some of our characters and their progression up to this point in the campaign and all that fun stuff. We're also going to, on Tuesday, we have a behind the screen session, and Wildmount comes out on Tuesday. So what I might do is actually behind the screen, feature the starting adventure that we're doing for Wildmount, Tides of Wildmount. There will be some spoilers perhaps, but for those of you that have the book and want to learn more about how to run Wildmount, not Tides. Tides of Wildmount is our show. If you want to learn how to run the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, you can do so by watching on Tuesday night behind the screen at 8 p.m. Eastern. But we will not be doing a regular episode of Into the Mist tomorrow night, unfortunately, due to what's going on and the fact that I've traveled. The Canadian government, actually more like local governments, are suggesting that we self-isolate. So I am doing that, even though I am not symptomatic at all. I have got brown paint all over my laptop, folks. It's just going everywhere, but it's all good. Besides Matt Mercer, any other D&D YouTubers Twitch that you personally watch? Yes. So, how do I go down the list of those? So I love all the Acquisitions Incorporated, Penny Arcade stuff, of course. That is a must-see for anybody who loves Dungeons & Dragons. And I just have a blast. I've had the opportunity to see them a couple times live, and they're so great. So if you ever get the chance to go to a PAX, do that. I've seen them twice at PAX Unplugged. So that would be a D&D streamer really love and enjoy watching. Some of the YouTubers I watch are the Crafting Muse. You can check her out. She's a lot of fun. You can look her up on YouTube. Black Magic Craft is Jeremy, who Pillapow, which is an awesome dude who does a lot of like D&D tabletop and RPG crafting. Not all D&D related. He just did a cyberpunk one, which is really cool. You can check him out and his channel. Again, Black Magic Craft. And they're all part of a tabletop crafters guild that include Wylock and DM Scotty, who is kind of like the godfather of crafting. I watch a lot of his stuff, and he's been around forever, and he's just a wonderful human being. I've had the opportunity to paint with him at a number of shows, and he's just a really great guy. So those are some of the ones that I watch on a regular basis. When it comes to the D&D stream, Twitch, I've watched, episodes of all of the streams that are on there. Tales from the Mists is really cool. That is the other Curse of Strahd campaign on the D&D Twitch, run by Lisa Penrose and a bunch of really awesome ladies. And of course, as you mentioned, Matt Mercer's Critical Role is a big a big one for me. I'm not caught up to campaign 2, all of it, but I'm deep in campaign 2, and just really love and are inspired by everything that they do, which is why it's such a honor to be doing an official Wildmount campaign. It's nuts. I should have brought I did bring a drink. My throat is dry. Cool. Meek says my wife is watching with me. Welcome, Meek 127's wife. Real talk, true. My wife is also watching. Sorry, guys. Why are you watching people talk? My wife says. That's good. How goes? Hey, Prometheus. Welcome. Jason, you may be instigating family infighting with that answer. That's funny. Let's see. Bound. Yeah, GC has some online stuff they announced today. That's right. Do you know about CR for tomorrow night? I do not know. About Critical Role. Question. Do you do any special basing of the miniatures, turf, sand, etc.? If you have, you will do a tutorial. I have. So in our tutorials, if you go to our YouTube page, I have done some basing stuff. I use a lot of the Vallejo environment effects. And also, they just released or announced that they're releasing these at the end of April. They are grass tufts. We'll be using lots of these moving forward. So keep an eye out for those. What was the most difficult miniature you've ever painted? Most difficult miniature. I think some of the most difficult ones, just because they're time consuming, are some of the dragons, the chromatic dragons that have the spines. Those spines are take a long time. That's the one. It's one dragon that broke me, and I wasn't able to finish in my 2 hours. I can't remember what episode that was, but yeah, there was one dragon in particular. It was the young black dragon that took a long time. When it comes to difficulty, though, sometimes skin is difficult to get a really kind of, so anything with a lot of skin, the Fomorian, even the Frost Giant, just to get a nice, really good kind of smooth transition in skin is sometimes difficult. This will be one of my most difficult because it takes so long. But for me, it's more, at this stage, it's more about time that makes it more difficult than the actual process of painting. Just because everything kind of follows a certain kind of path or method. The same skills and same tactics are used for painting. Basically, I'm doing the mast here, and I'm going through from top to bottom with the heavy sienna on all the really heavy wood texture areas. Not afraid to get it on the rest because they're going to be painted something different anyways. So I'm not too worried about that. This is metal, so I will make it metal after. And I'm using gunmetal for a lot of my metal. Instead of the gold color of the pre-painted, I want it to look a little different than the other ship. And I cannot wait to get to all the kind of weathering stuff that I'm going to do next week. That's going to be my favorite part to do. I'm quite new to hey, I'm quite new to paint. Hang on a sec. Sorry. If you have a question, please. I'm quite new to painting minis, but I have trouble cleaning my brushes. Did we lose Sirenscape? We did lose Sirenscape. Sorry, guys. Oh, there's a gathering storm, folks. I can't believe that whole time I didn't have Sirenscape on. Again, Sirenscape, you can check them out at sirenscape.com. This is High Seas. So the High Seas sound set that I will be featuring obviously fairly prominently through my Tides of Wildmount campaign in the near future. These are magnetic, guys, which is really cool. They actually stick right onto the boat, onto the ship, and you can pull them off, which is really cool. So it's a really cool aspect of it. You need some more. This feels like it's not even half empty yet, and I've used so much of it. Not even close. Not even a third empty, really. Okay. Do airbrush painting as well. Yes, we do airbrush painting. I don't do any on the show. because it's just really difficult, guys, to have the airbrush and set it up kind of in the studio, and you need the spray booth. Maybe I'll do some airbrushing at some point in the future, but many people don't have it, so I just want the show to be as accessible as possible. But there is some airbrushing stuff that I did on the Beholder tutorial for some of the object source lighting and special effects that exists on YouTube on that tutorial, so you can check that out. And I'm just going through, folks, here, and even though I'm painting kind of over some of the metal areas and some of the ropes, I'm still painting it mostly brown, just because I want to make sure that that I have really good coverage. Because I can come in here and paint over that with my extra opaque heavy brown afterwards. It's easy to do. I think I want to make these platforms the heavy brown color instead of the heavy sienna. Maybe. We'll see. Again, the idea is to try and make some differentiation and delineation in the colors so that it stays interesting. It doesn't all look like just a sea of brown, the same brown color. So I'm trying very purposely to separate, to add some separation in that. There we go. Do I want to make the platform brown? I might do the center platform. You know what? I'm going to do the center platform, the heavy sienna, and then I'm going to do heavy brown on the border there that exists. Puppy Lover says, any chance you can do some videos on working on basing? Yes, actually, you know what? Like I said, I have these new grass tufts, so I may do like a specific basing tutorial. You know, a lot of the D&D minis don't have bases, or they have like limited bases, but we can absolutely do some of that in the future. I'll make sure to leave time to focus on doing some bases for sure. I haven't really done a lot of, I've done character-based episodes, not technique-based episodes really, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll do like a technique-based episode to teach some basing techniques and some other things too. That'd be cool, actually. It's a good idea. Any problems getting toilet paper in Canada? Patron, yes, Patron. I have some at home, thankfully, to last me a little while. I went to Walmart yesterday, and it was all freaking gone. I don't understand, but so yes, it's been difficult to get toilet paper in Toronto. But that said, there was a lot of everything else. Obviously, like Lysol wipes, things like that were gone. Rice was gone. Everybody bought up all the rice and sugar, which I don't quite, and the bread, which I don't quite understand. Yeah, you can freeze it, and I know rice goes a long way, but there was lots of vegetables and fruit. Obviously, those are perishables. I don't quite understand why people have to buy 20 packs of anything, especially for folks like me who are away, who come back, and if I didn't have toilet paper, it would have been in a very difficult place, not being able to find any. So, again, folks, just be kind and remember that there's other people out there that don't have a chance to get out and need stuff too. It's just really important to look out for each other right now, guys. Really important. Any chance you can do some videos on basing? Yeah, we already talked about that. Question, what's your preference for changes in color? More changes in tone or color range? Warm, cold? Not sure what you mean. If you can just, Ralrin, if you can clarify or expand on that. What's your preferences for changes in color? More changes in tone? Are you talking about across the same miniature? Different miniatures? What is your, I just want to kind of a little bit more, just so I can answer your question effectively and accurately. If you can just tell me what you mean by that. If you mean across the same miniature or across the same color, that kind of thing, it would be great. It is. It is stormy out there, folks. It's about to get worse. Can't wait for my players to get caught in a storm on the ship. It's going to be great. Let me know, too, if Sirenscape's a little loud, folks. I'm loving it, but... Apparently, I ordered some Dwarven Forge for my husband's birthday this past Friday, and he wants me to help him paint it. What tutorial would be best for me to watch, since I've never painted any of these before? Dwarven Forge's YouTube actually has a bunch of how to paint stuff. You know what? Because of the storm, we're going to go down below into the inner chambers of the ship to stay out of the wind, I think. Because it sounds like it's getting pretty bad out there. But yeah, the Dwarven Forge has some really great... They're a sponsor of our Into the Mist show, and they have some really great tutorials on their page. So check that out. People are... Yeah. Do you have a tutorial for starting painting minis pre-primed and unprimed? Yes. So there are lots of pre-primed tutorials. We have 37 other ones other than this one on our YouTube page and on the D&D YouTube page. So you can check that out online there. There's lots and lots and lots of tutorials. We do have some unpainted, I think, or unprimed tutorials on our channel. But you can use basically, if you get an unprimed mini, you can use any of the techniques that you see in our pre-primed miniature tutorials once you've primed it. Whether you use a rattle can to prime, or you use a paintbrush to prime, like a brush-on primer, you can use that as well. Okay, so that is that. Mast 1 done. Like that. Boom. Boom shakalaka. Okay. Now this is dry. I'm gonna take that off. Use this to hold my mast. Like that. Mast number 2. Sorry, folks. Not an incredibly riveting painting session here. We're just painting a whole lot of brown. I think this is the longest I've spent, an hour now, or an hour and 15 minutes or so, just painting brown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this brush. Don't want any of that heavy sienna to get stuck in it. So we're just going to give it a break here for a second so it doesn't start to kind of like stick in the bristles here. Oh, Bruno the Tavern Dog is being really loud. He still has the cone of shame on, folks. Poor guy. Hey, Bruno. How you doing, buddy? Rauren says from light dark changes in brown colors or warmer or cooler browns. Yes. So what I'm doing is, for this ship specifically, I am going to be painting a lot of it a darker brown. So that's kind of all the base kind of colors. I want a darker brown. And then for the other colors, I'm going to paint it a lighter brown. So I'm going to use heavy sienna on one and heavy brown on the others to give some differentiation. You'll see that as we move forward. And then I'm using different washes. That's a great way to add different tones, even to the same one. So if I were to use like a umber wash on my heavy brown, or a black wash, or a sepia wash, they'll all add different tones. If you use black, you're going to get a cooler kind of look on the heavy brown. If you use a heavy sienna, you'll get a warmer. So I do a lot of my differentiation in colors with washes, and that really, really helps. You can also use inks to do that too. But with washes is kind of the way that I differentiate and add some warmth. And then, of course, with the highlight too. You can use kind of a cooler color, like a white, or you can use a warmer color, like a bone white, which will give some warmth to that as well. So, oh, hang on. Bruno is caught up in a camera cable, and that is very dangerous and very expensive if that were to fall. So hopefully, jeez. Oh, Bruno. That was close, y'all. That was close. Okay. I know. Can you hear him? He's trying to scratch his head, but he can't through the cone. I'd bring him over here for you guys to see him, but it's kind of hard to fit him through the area there to get him on camera. Poor guy. Maybe I'll show him tomorrow night. So tune in tomorrow night for a visit from Bruno. Question: when beginning to learn wet blending, what are some things to keep in mind or good ways to practice? I don't do a lot of wet blending. I actually don't even own a wet palette right now. I've done some, but the important thing is lots of thin coats. Wet blending is fun, and for those of you that don't know, wet blending is basically using wet paint to blend back and forth between colors. Multiple thin coats is important when wet blending. That is a key to it. And then there's a technique. There's lots of tutorials up there you can check out on YouTube regarding wet blending if you like, if you're interested. So many great questions tonight, guys. You guys are so active in the chat. I love it. So many viewers, too. I guess a lot of people are just at home, just kind of hanging out, which is cool that you've chosen us to spend your time. Bruno is barking in the other room. I don't know why. I don't think there's anybody out there. I think maybe he's hearing, sometimes he hears like gulls on, like the seagulls in Sirenscape, and he gets all excited. It's really funny. Or wolves howling, and they'll start to bark. No problem, Roran. How do you know if a mini is primed? You can usually tell, it'll say if it's pre-primed or not. So most minis are not primed. WizKids minis are one of the few fantasy minis that come pre-primed. In fact, maybe the only. There are other ones that are made of a material that you can prime, that you don't have to prime, that you can paint directly. But it'll say pre-primed right on the package. So just read the package and make sure, as you see. But it's pretty awesome that they all come pre-primed. And you can tell because they have this kind of matte, sort of, not milky, but this matte painted, almost chalky kind of surface, just like this. If it's shiny at all, then it's probably not pre-primed. And like I said, most of the minis on the market are not pre-primed. Most of them are not. Bruno, what are you barking at? He's just mad at the world right now. He's like, you put this cone on me. But it's necessary, Bruno. It's necessary. Not sure what he's barking. Bruno, come here. He's such a good boy. He is coming. Buddy, how's it going? You okay? Not doing so great, eh? Go lie down, bud. Okay, I'm almost done. Will I even get to the heavy brown? Yeah, I will, because it's next. I am not painting the masts, the sail arms. I forget what they're called. Because they have the sails on them, and it's a much more careful process that I would have to do. I'm going to basically tape them off and stuff. They already have the sails basically tied to them. So I am not painting those. I'm going to paint those after the fact, but I will explain it once I've done it, how I did it on stream, so you guys can kind of understand and try it for yourself at home. You can see I'm doing a lot of like stabbing with the brush to make sure that I get into all the cracks. Worst thing is when you have like when you have primer kind of showing in between colors. Looks chintzy. So what are the other plans for minis for this month? Good question. So the other plan for minis for this month, we are doing Falling Star again next week, and then the final Sunday of the month, which was supposed to be the GaryCon Sunday, will be the Young Red Dragon as promised. We will be painting one of those on stream, and it'll be a lot of fun. So there we go. Okay. Wow, that's insanity. That turned out all right. Woo. Okay, so done and done. I've probably missed some areas that I'll have to touch up later, but for the most part, that is complete. I'm gonna put that down here, and we're just gonna let it sit. Now I have to decide if I'm gonna go ahead and start to base coat the. I'm going to have to decide if I'm going to go ahead and base coat the heavy brown areas or if I'm going to do the wash first. I think I'm going to do the heavy brown because then that will allow me to kind of look at the rest of it and decide what I want to do for the washes, and will also allow me to determine if I've missed any spots while I'm going through with the other colors. So heavy brown, folks, is the next color we're going to be using. I am almost out of heavy brown. I did not bring enough. Oh well. Okay, so using the larger brush still, because there are some larger areas, I'm going to grab this, and this is what I'm going to use for all of this. Now again, as opposed to the heavy sienna areas, I'm going to be using, on the heavy sienna areas, I'm going to be using a black wash. On the heavy brown areas, I'm going to be using a sienna. Not a sienna, a sepia wash. And that will give it kind of a warm finish. I have to be careful here not to get the heavy sienna areas that I just painted already. Maybe be using a slightly smaller brush than this for this, but I'm going to go through basically and use a large brush, get the bigger areas, and then come back with a smaller brush. I think I'm going to like that. I think I'm going to like how that looks with kind of the two-tone color, especially with the washes afterwards added. It'll look really cool. But I do think that I need to switch to a smaller brush quite soon to be able to get all of these nooks and crannies. I'm not going to get through base coating this time around. Boo-hoo, I really totally thought I was going to. Did not work out the way I was hoped. Did not work out the way I was hoping. It's all good. Question, any suggestions for weathering metal? For example, if there are metal cleats that would be getting wet, what would your strategies for showing rust oxidation? Good question. Vallejo has some awesome special effect paints. They have a rust, both an old rust and a newer rust, like fresh and kind of older rust. One is obviously the fresh one is kind of a bright orange color. We've used both of those in tutorials in the past, especially on the Iron Golem tutorial. And you can get those at your local game store. They also have a verdigris color, special effect paint that you basically brush on, and it goes into the recesses of your miniature and creates that awesome kind of coppered or bronze verdigris green kind of effect in the what's it called, in the recesses. So you can check that out from Vallejo at your local game stores that carry Vallejo. They have some awesome things, but that's what I would use for creating those. And then basically with the rust effects, you want to be stippling it on kind of like this so that it looks like it's a natural kind of forming rust. Oh, Bruno is animated today. He is not happy. Or happy, I don't know. He could be begging to go play outside, I don't know. I like to think that I understand dog. I like to talk to him often. But chances are I don't quite understand what he's saying. Okay. Trying to get all the questions here. Hey, question. I'm quite new to painting minis. This is from D&D Feanor. But I have trouble cleaning my brushes. Do you have a tip for correctly cleaning your paint brushes so you don't ruin them? Yes. A couple tips. First tip is try not to get paint up to the ferrule. See this metal part here? That is called the ferrule. And if you get paint jammed up in there, the bristles become quite stiff there, and then you don't get as much play in your brushes. That's really important. Try not to get paint up to the ferrule when you're loading your brush. That is a big one. The second one is you can get a paint conditioner / cleaner. It's called, I always forget, Artist's Choice or Artist's Own. Maybe somebody who knows in the chat can post. But basically, it's an amazing way, and it's basically like a soap. You place your brush in, you move it around till it suds up with a little bit of water, and then you rinse it, and that cleans all of the paint out of your brushes, and it's really great. Artist's Touch. I can't remember. It's really good. Anyways, but you can find it at your local painting store or art supply store, and it is good for cleaning your brushes. The other thing, too, is never let your brush kind of sit with paint on it and let it dry, because it will gunk up those bristles, and that is not fun to get out. So that is another one, too. Make sure that you always rinse your brushes after using it. And as you've seen me do, I'll rinse them even between colors. Or if I'm using the same color for a long time, I will rinse it, clean it out, and then continue to go. And you'll sometimes feel when it starts to get kind of gunked up. Now again, I'm using a larger brush here, and then I will move to a smaller brush to fill in all the little gaps in a little bit. Just to make sure everything's covered after the fact. I am diluting just a touch on this, because I do want it to the paint to flow well, but not too much, because then you're not getting the coverage that you want with these extra opaques. The point is to have them a little thicker so that they cover better. That is the intent of the extra opaque paints in the first place. So you don't want to ruin that purpose. Or yeah, okay. There. I may, in between weeks, go ahead and base coat the rest of the ship in the same method that I am, and then show you the areas that I did. Losing my voice. Helps when Julian's here, because it gives me a bit of a break on my voice, but not this week. Masters Brush Cleaner. That's it. Thank you, Glinix. Hey, Weeping Jay, welcome back. A question, any suggestions for weathering metal? Oh, I already answered that one. Yes, my Sirenscape sounds like... Are we hearing a rocking chair? That is this. What is that sound? It's the inside of the boat. Things are rocking. We're down below in the belly of the boat while the storm is happening outside. Because if you open your little window, then if you open the port window, then you'll hear the storm that's occurring outside the ship. It's pretty bad. Rain's blowing in. There's lightning and thunder happening. So really, we're just hanging out below deck, just kind of hanging out until the storm passes. Love Sirenscape. All right. Bruno is not a happy dog today. I mean, I wouldn't be either with the Kona Shane on, but 15 minutes. Like I said, between weeks, episodes, guys, I think I'll go ahead and I will base coat all of these colors so that next episode we can focus on all of the special kind of weathering and all of that. I think you guys have the idea of this base coating down. I think we're good. Maybe I'll even add a wash to most of it and just leave like little areas unwashed so that I can show you how to apply the wash, but this is taking a little longer than I expected, but still not too bad. I mean, we've done a lot of work in basically an hour and a half. Then I'm going to go in, like I said, to all of these areas here and make sure it's all painted with a smaller brush. I am now going to wash my big brush really well. Make sure all that paint is out of there, folks. Rinse, 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 and wipe until it wipes kind of clear. And then I'm going to, even though I'm destroying this brush, I'm going to put it back into as much of a tip as I can and let that sit and dry while I kind of grab a larger brush here. That is not the brush I should have gotten here. Question, how do you do ship-to-ship combat on D&D? That is a great question. There's lots of different options. The best resource for that right now that I've been reviewing in light of Wildmount is Ghost of Saltmarsh. Has some really great stuff in it. Either you can grab it in the book, the Saltmarsh book, or grab the stuff off of D&D Beyond. The resources are there as well. But yeah, Ghost of Saltmarsh has some really cool ship rules and combat and like life on a ship and the different kind of ranks and positions for sailors on a ship. There's some really great stuff there. So you can check out Ghost of Saltmarsh. There's some awesome rules for ship-to-ship combat and even just life on aboard a ship. If anybody else has some ideas, sound off in the chat. But that is the core kind of rules that I'm using for the upcoming Wildmount campaign. Okay. As Gary Con is canceled, what is the plan for next week's Nolzur's episode? Yeah, so I mentioned before, I'm going to see what the actual plan is, but if you sign up for an event at GaryCon, there is we're trying to figure out what to do there regarding the minis or whatever. But that said, I am going to hold the tutorial in the same slot as we are this week. So in our usual slot, which will be 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be doing the Young Red Dragon on the 29th, which is my birthday, actually. It's the evening of my birthday. I'll be doing the Young Red Dragon on the show that evening. So you can check that out that day. Okay, so that is kind of where I'm breaking it, basically where the stairs start and that banister kind of starts. I'll also continue it along the top here, like that. And I will do the door jam and border as well in that heavy brown color, like that. Really think that's going to work out. All these banisters, it's really hard not to miss any areas because they're so twisty and, you know, thin kind of cylindrical objects are always tough to paint and not miss a side or a facet. So just make sure that the coverage is good. And if you end up missing some of kind of like the cracks and stuff, the washes are really good for that too. You'll find that when you're putting your wash on, it does go into the recesses. It's actually quite forgiving. You get decent coverage sometimes on areas that you've missed. Yes, and there's also an Unearthed Arcana from WotC, from Dungeons & Dragons, that you can use for ship rules and combat as well. Somebody just pointed out in the chat. You can download that and check that out in PDF format. Okay. Okay, trying not to paint these planks here. Trying to stay away from that because we don't want to go over that heavy sienna because we'll have to touch that up again. Just trying to get around it so that they remain that dark color. Got a little bit here, but again, washes tend to be forgiving, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. And speaking to Justin, president of WizKids, back when they were kind of designing the ship, they specifically, and this is the attention to detail that WizKids gives to this sort of thing, they actually made these steps the right size so that a base from WizKids can fit in it. So that as a character is climbing, little known fact, they can actually stay in there and they don't move. That was purposely done for that reason. Very thoughtful from the folks at WizKids. I remember getting a picture of kind of like the the prototype that he shared with me then, with that in there. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. All the thought that goes into these. And actually, I think it was around that time where he shared some stuff on Tabletop Crafters Guild, and I actually, that's when we kind of met and started our whole partnership with WizKids back then. I think he was sharing about the ship, perhaps. Might have been, I wonder. I think that was it. I keep smacking this camera with my head. I think this side of the stairs is... keep seeing, and that's what you'll do, folks, when you're painting stuff like this that has lots of like cylindrical areas, banisters, things like that. You'll often kind of find yourself going back and going, hey, wait a second, I missed that area. I mean, this would be a model mini if you have an airbrush to mask off certain areas and use your airbrush to base coat. Would probably be fast. Well, not would probably be faster, it would be a lot faster, for sure. But then you do have to tape it all off, so there is time to do that as well. But as you can see, within 4 hours, basically these 2 episodes, maybe 4 or 5 hours, you could paint a whole ship, which isn't too bad. I think we're going to go back to the deck of the ship because I think the storm has passed here, so I think we're good. Back to it. When working with inks, do you thin them like paints? Oh, so welcome back as always, bud. Yes, I do. I do thin them off sometimes. The Vallejo inks are nice and thick, and the reason I like that is because you can always thin a paint, you can't always thicken it. So when it comes to the inks, sometimes I want like a thin glaze, and sometimes I want a thicker one. For those of you that are new to painting, inks, unlike washes, are used for, well, let me say this. Washes sometimes change the surface color of your, or often change the surface color, but inks are designed specifically for that. They're a bit more translucent, a little less opaque, and basically washes are designed to change the tone of the color on the surface of your miniature. So if I paint something blue and I want it to be a bit more green, for example, I would add a green wash on top, and the amount of water that I add to it will determine how thin that glaze is and how much of that blue still shows through. Whereas a wash, like a blue wash, is intended to seep into the recesses and doesn't, really tint the surface of something as much. So that's the difference between inks and washes. Okay, so you can see that banister is done. I think I got all the areas for the most part here. couple little things here and there, but that is a nice solid coat. Then I have to do the rest for that side, then I have to do the other stairs. This is the part that's going to take the longest, folks. Base coating all of the little fine details on these stairs. It's probably going to take longer than it took for me to base coat the entirety of the ship so far. Did I miss any questions here? Cool. I think I got them all. 4 minutes left, folks. 4 minutes. Oh, I got a bunch of paint on that side, so I'm going to have to go back and kind of touch that up a little bit. But I got a bunch of paint on the wood back there, which isn't a big deal. Not really going to see that too much under the stairs, but I see it. So I'll go back and I'll adjust that or just touch it up a bit. No biggie. But I am seeing, like for example here, you can see that I have some white in those corners. So I will go back and touch that up. And that's why I wanted to do this before I did the wash on all of the heavy siennas, so that I could determine and see, kind of get another look at some of the heavy sienna areas to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And I think that was a good call. That was a good call. I am going to do the bottom of these kind of in metal, as they look like they have little braces that connect to the floorboards. All right, folks. So like I said, probably between sessions, I'm going to finish up base coating all of the heavy brown areas, and maybe doing a wash in some of the larger areas, because that is going to take a long time to dry. We don't want to just sit and watch a wash dry next episode. But then, once that's done, we'll do all the dry brushing and the awesome kind of effects that we have. It'll be a lot of fun. So join us for that next week. Again, folks, just be safe during this time. Take care of each other. Really enjoy each other's time, because you never know how long people have. So just be kind and thoughtful, especially when you guys are out shopping and all of that kind of stuff. There are a lot of people out there who are in a bad place, and so just take care of, especially our elderly and our young ones during this time. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing to the D&D Twitch and the RealmSmith Twitch. Consider making us your Prime subscription, and follow us, of course, and you'll be notified anytime that we go live. Make sure that you all stay healthy. If you're interested in our adventure boxes, you can check out realmsmith.tv and enter the promo code IWantAdventure in the cart to get $20 off your first box. I want to thank Dungeons & Dragons, of course, for hosting us as usual. I want to thank WizKids for the awesome ship, as well as Vallejo for the incredible paints that we use on a regular basis. Again, GaryCon is canceled, but stay tuned for all of the way that things will continue to go. We are still going to stream on March 28th. It's just a question of how and how that looks and in what capacity moving forward. I think that's all. You guys have a wonderful week. We will see you tomorrow night for a special edition of Into the Mist, where we will do Q&A and talk to the players remotely, because I am in self-isolation after traveling. I am not symptomatic. I am healthy. I am okay. But they suggest that you self-isolate after traveling to the United States. So I am doing that. And to be smart and to be courteous to everyone around me. The following week, we will do an episode, which will be great. And we're so very freaking excited. And I'll also Tuesday night be talking a little bit behind the screen about Tides of Wildmount, which is our Wildmount campaign coming out the 6th. And you guys will have books in hand, I believe, on Tuesday, so we can talk more about it. You guys have an incredible night. Be safe. Be good, and we will see you tomorrow night for our special edition of Into the Mist. You guys have a good night.